welcome back to the channel. Today I'm excited because you and I together are going to experience part 4 of the Pennywise tutorial, where we're going to mix the resin and pour it in and see what that does. I've never done this before, so we get to sort of experience that together. I've watched a whole lot of YouTube videos, so I should be a professional at it by now. So let's see how that works. Let's dive right in. Let me show you the progress that I've made up to this point. Okay guys, so what I did off camera and getting the piece ready to pour the resin is I was able to accurately, or at least in my opinion, accurately display the shoreline there. That's painted and a little more realistic looking, at least in my opinion. I tidied up the edge on both sides, tidied up a little more of the dry brushing just to get that ready. Once everything dried from the last video series, I was able to take some rocks out of our yard and I hot glued a few rocks, not many, into place, bigger rocks, and then some little gravel. I got a whole jar of that. I think we got those at Hobby Lobby or a year ago or so. But put some tacky glue on those and then put those in place to give a little more depth to the sewer drain there, the river. And then I was able to go back to Hobby Lobby. I needed a couple of things, and while I was there, I wanted to look in the train, the model train section, and I was able to find these cattails. There's the whole little box of them, a little bag or a little plastic container of them. I got the cattails. This is not cattails. This is some, it's called Dry Vines Dead Foliage. And so I wanted to pick this up too because I think it's going to go perfect on here. But more importantly, I wanted the package to help me be able to situate this thing to be able to pour resin. And so I'll get to that in a moment. But I really took the cattails and hot glued them in behind a couple of the rocks. You can kind of see how they're just hot glued in there. And then that's looking from the wrong end. So you're gonna be looking at it this way when it's done. And obviously the resin will cover all that up. At least that's the plan. And so in determining how I was going to keep the resin in, I've seen a bunch of videos. I've watched a bunch of videos on YouTube on how to mix resin, how to pour resin, how to keep it on the on the styrofoam without eating it. And a lot of people take masking tape and mask this off, and I don't know. I just didn't. Maybe that works. Obviously, it works. It's on YouTube. A lot of people do it, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that with my first pour. So I saw another video, and I'm not sure who did it or where I saw it, but they hot glued some plastic in place. And so that's why I wanted to get this packaging. One, because I think the dry foliage in here is great. It was the same foliage in a couple of little bushes that I got. But more importantly, I cut this plastic down. It's really thin. I cut this plastic down, and then you can see it here. I cut it down to fit. I put some hot glue around here, and I simply stuck it in place. I did that on both sides, so it's really sort of captured that into in between those two plastic pieces. I wasn't satisfied with that. Again, I've never done this before, so I took some white Elmer's glue and basically ran another bead of white glue on the inside to try to really make sure that resin doesn't run out. So I'm not going to put any masking on it. I've got glue on both sides. It's set for 24 hours. It's cured. It's ready. And so this is how it looks before I try the resin. I hope it looks better than this after I pour the resin, because I really want to start on that again. But with that, let's take a look at the resin and go through the steps on how to mix that, and then we'll get started. Okay guys, for the resin part, I picked up some additional resin. I found this on sale, I believe at Walmart. We were there the other day and I picked this up in their craft section. It's the Mod Podge brand, so it's probably quality. 2-part resin. It's got the normal part and then the hardener you pour in after that. And so I read the instructions on it. It seems pretty straightforward. You mix equal parts of number 1 to equal parts of number 2. You're supposed to slowly mix that together for about 5 minutes, getting everything mixed up and ready. And then you've got about 30 minutes, it says, of work time. You pour it in. and you let it sit for 24 hours or so, and it's supposedly cured at that point. Now, the videos that I did see on YouTube, there's a lot, you can introduce a lot of bubbles by vigorously stirring it or just pouring it. And so I've got a lighter, like a handheld torch, that I'm going to use to kind of burn, hopefully, some of those bubbles off as they happen. Another thing I wanted to do in order to make sure that I do this right is if you have a scale at home, like a food scale or something like that, I'm going to use that. I'm going to weigh the cup, and I'll explain all this as we actually pour, but you'll need a scale, or at least I'm going to use a scale. You'll need your resin. Again, there's a part 1 and a part 2. Okay, we got that. You're going to need something to mix it in. I've got a red solo cup. Now, I would love to use something a little bit bigger, but I don't have anything readily available, and I don't want to use something that my wife's going to get mad at me for using. So I'm gonna stick with this red solo cup. I can get away with that, I think. And then I'm hoping that about 12 ounces or so, 12 and a half ounces, will be enough to cover the river. These are 8 ounces apiece, so this is 16 ounces. So I can't mix it all together. I tried. I put 16 ounces of water in a measuring cup, and I put it into this cup, and it brings it all the way to the top. Go figure, it's a cup. And so it's a little too short for that, for my opinion. So I'm gonna measure and weigh the resin, and I'm only gonna use about 12 to 12 and a half ounces. That'll leave me a little bit left over. Probably won't do anything with it, but at least I'll have a little extra, I guess, maybe if I need it for something else. So that's how we're getting ready to mix. And then the last thing I want to show you is I picked up this ink. It's called alcohol ink. I want to make sure that I don't just put straight clear resin. Now, you notice that I did paint the base, and that's going to give it some depth and some feeling. There's some rocks down there. It's going to help to kind of illustrate that and expound on that. But I wanted to have a little bit of a tint in the water. And so I've read online and I've watched YouTube videos where you can use just basic acrylic paint, which I have plenty of. A lot of people said ink is better, it mixes better, it looks better. And so I got this ink, and this is called Marine Blue. I got this at Hobby Lobby. I think it was $4 or $5. And so I'm going to take a little bit of this and just drop it in, and you'll see me do that. And I'm going to mix it up. I don't expect it to be ocean blue. I don't want it to be ocean blue, but I want a little more tint than just regular clear resin when it's dry. And I think that'll help the look maybe a little bit better. But I'm going to be putting a couple drops of this in. And guys, I'm experimenting right along with this. I've never done this before, so you get to witness it if I do it. If I mess it up, you get to see it. You probably won't see it if I mess it up because I won't post it. But you get my point. So I'm going to be using some of this, and we'll see how that works as well. So with that, I think I'm going to get everything set up. I'm going to move this because once I pour it, I don't want to move it again. I want to let it just sit for 24 hours. So I'm going to get everything ready, readjust the camera, and we'll start mixing some resin. Okay guys, I think I'm about ready to get started mixing this. And one thing that I did learn real quick I want to share with you. While I was getting everything set up, I took another cup and put some water in it and poured this alcohol ink in it. And I did not like the way it looked at all. It scattered, it was flaky. I used a stir stick to stir it up, and it still had flakes and things like that in it. So I'm glad I tried this first because I don't like it. I would have been very disappointed after mixing up all that resin. I wouldn't have poured it onto the display, obviously, and screw it all up, but I'm glad I checked this beforehand. I don't like this. It's maybe the wrong type of ink. I don't know. Maybe it'll all do that. I don't know. But I'm not going to use it. What I am going to use is some acrylic paint. This one is called, let's see here. It's called Calypso Blue. And it's a good color, I think. And I think I'm just going to put a little drop on this stick and mix it into the resin once that's done. So with that, the way we're going to start this is we need to, if we're not gonna mix the whole container, which I already told you we're not, I only need about 12 to 12 and a half ounces of resin. And so the way I'm gonna do this is I need to weigh, so obviously I'll put in, ideally, slowly, 6 ounces of the number 1, and then 6 ounces of the number 2. In the instructions, it did say be very careful to get identical or very close to identical portions so that it mixes up and it'll cure correctly. So if I were just to turn on the scale and throw the cup up there, well, the cup weighs 0.4 ounces, right? So I don't want to throw my measurement off. So the advice here is reset your scale to 0 once the cup is on there. Now when I take the cup off, it shows me minus 0.4 ounces. So I put the cup back on and it goes back to 0. So with that, wish me luck. We're gonna start this, all right? So I've got the stick ready. I've got number 2 steady. I've also got a timer. It said once you get everything in, to time it, the stirring, a nice slow process for about 3 minutes. I'm probably gonna go at least 5 minutes from the things that I saw on YouTube. So probably 3 to 5 minutes of stirring once they're combined. The instruction said once it's combined, you can add your dye or your ink, in my case, a little bit of paint. Once it's blended together, you can add that and then let it sit, let some air bubbles rise to the top, but you've only got so long before you can start pouring it. So with that, let's go ahead and we will, I've already opened these ahead of time, so I don't have to do it here. The scale is 0. I'm gonna add 6 ounces. So here we go, number 1. Here, let me turn this where you can see a little bit better here. Okay guys, I'm at 6.1 ounces, so just slightly over. So I'm gonna try to get this to 6.2, 6.1, so 12.2. This is a little easier looking to pour. So this is the hardener. Okay, I'm at 11. There's 12.2. Okay, so we're gonna stop there at 12.2. And here we go. Start a timer. Okay guys, I'm gonna add the Calypso Blue and just a little bit of this. I've been mixing for about 6 minutes or so. Let me shake this up just to make sure we're getting a good dose of it here. There are quite a bit of bubbles in there, so that is a little concerning. I'm gonna start with that. This is sort of what it looks like, the consistency. Okay, let's get ready to pour it. Okay guys, this is the moment of truth. Just kind of give you a look. That's what the resin looks like. Here we go. Let's try it. Okay guys, I think I'm pleased with that. I'm gonna let it sit there for a minute. I like it so far. I just pray that it holds. I really, really pray that it holds and doesn't eat through that. So I'm a little scared, but let's let it sit, and I may need to pour some more, so I'm just gonna hold that off for a second. I don't see any major leaks so far, which is good, which is great. I do see some air bubbles starting to come up, and so we will deal with that as we get closer, but so far so good. Let's see how that works. Oh wow, you see that? I mean, the air bubbles just kind of go away. Okay guys, we're gonna let that cure. I'll be back and we'll close it out. Okay, so it looked and it felt easier than I had anticipated. Now, who knows how it's going to cure? It needs 24 hours. I may give it a little bit longer than that just to make sure, but it looks good. I'm going to continue to check on it every few minutes and just kind of burn some of those bubbles. They keep coming to the top, but that torch takes them off really, really easily. They completely disappear. It looks really, really good so far. I'm very pleased with it. Now, the next key is going to be getting that the glue and the transparency that I use to keep that resin in off. I got a feeling it may rip some styrofoam, and that's okay because I plan on resculpting that area around the base and painting it anyway. So that was a risk that I was willing to take, is the reason I chose to do, to kind of, trap that resin in there the way that I chose to do that. So if you like what you've seen, go ahead and click the like button, certainly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. I love showing you guys the content. I love doing this stuff. It's a special place in my heart to do this. So I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate your comments. Keep them coming in. We'll be back with part 5. And hopefully be starting to wrap this one up and put it out on display. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.